There's a certain kind of man every woman quietly thinks about. She doesn't message him. She doesn't call. But she wonders. She checks if he saw her latest post. She rereads his last words. She asks herself, why hasn't he reached out? And that subtle worry, it's not born from tricks or manipulation. It's born from presence. It's about how you show up with calm purpose, and then step back with unwavering self-control. See, most men today chase too much. They over-explain. They give too much. They try too hard to stand out. But here's the truth. When you stop making her your center, when you become a man of mystery and depth, when your life is driven by purpose, not performance, that's when your absence speaks louder than your presence ever could. And that's when you touch something real inside her. The kind of worry I'm talking about isn't fear or insecurity. It's emotional tension, a hunger for clarity, a quiet realization that she could lose something rare and she'll have to earn you. And that flips the entire dynamic. So if you're tired of chasing, if you've given more than you've received, if you're ready to be the man who moves with peace, power, and presence, then stay with me, because in this video, you'll learn exactly how to become the man she worries about losing, even when you say nothing at all. Let's begin. 1. Be emotionally elusive, not absent. There's a razor-thin line between being emotionally elusive and being emotionally absent, and most men cross it without even noticing. When I say emotionally elusive, I don't mean ghosting her. I don't mean shutting down or ignoring her feelings. I'm talking about not being so easily available that your presence loses value. See, women are deeply emotional beings, but they don't chase what's always within reach. They chase what they feel slipping away, what they haven't fully figured out. The moment you hand over your entire emotional world, she stops working to understand you. And when there's no mystery, there's no magnetism. Being emotionally elusive is about being intentional with your energy. It's knowing what to share and what to hold. You don't unload your entire day on her. You don't bleed your emotions to seek validation. Instead, you share with depth, with purpose. You drop clues, a subtle look, a short, thoughtful message, just enough to spark curiosity, not enough to tell the whole story. But hear this clearly. This isn't about playing games. You're not withholding to manipulate her. You do it because your emotions are sacred. You don't pour them into someone who hasn't earned that right. And the moment she senses she has to earn more of you, that's when the worry begins. She starts asking herself, does he still like me? Is he drifting away? What is he thinking? And just like that, you're no longer a man she simply talks to. You're a man she deeply feels. That's the key. Emotional elusiveness doesn't disconnect her. It draws her in. It makes her lean forward. It makes her invest, because she knows your heart isn't up for grabs. It's guarded, and if she wants access, she's going to have to come closer. Don't be afraid to hold some things back. Be honest, but not exposed. Be warm, but not overreaching, because when you master this balance, you'll never have to chase her attention. Her heart will already be chasing yours. Most men today give too much, too soon. They spill their emotions, hoping to build connection, but they strip away the mystery in the process. Understand this. Desire lives in tension, in curiosity, when she doesn't fully know where she stands. When there's space for her to wonder, that's when you become unforgettable. So guard your emotions, not with cold walls, but with quiet strength. When you do this right, You don't need to force closeness. You become a man she wants to get closer to, not because you chased her, but because you gave her a reason to chase you. 2. Master purposeful silence. There's a kind of silence that speaks louder than any words. It's not cold. It's not distant. It's intentional. It's controlled. It's the silence of a man who doesn't feel the need to fill every space with noise. He's not desperate to be heard. He knows that his worth isn't proven by what he says, but by how he carries himself in the moments between words. Most men today talk too much, and not because they're confident, but because they're insecure. They explain too often. They overshare through text. They feel the need to constantly reassure her. Why? Because they're afraid. Afraid that if they don't keep feeding her attention, she'll lose interest. But the man of quiet confidence understands a deeper truth. He knows that silence builds tension. That space creates curiosity. That calmness signals power. Purposeful silence isn't about shutting down. It's about knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. It's about letting your energy fill the space, not your words. It's about responding to messages, not instantly, but after you've lived your day. On your terms. It's about listening fully, without interrupting or rushing to speak. It's about walking into a room and not needing to dominate the conversation because your presence already does. Understand this. Women notice the man who can sit in silence with ease, not the one who tries too hard to be seen. It's magnetic, it's mysterious, it's powerful. And yes, at first, you may feel unsettled. She'll wonder, why isn't he always available? Why isn't he over-explaining like every other man? But slowly, that wonder will turn into worry. What is he thinking? Does he still care? Why do I feel this pull toward him? She'll begin watching you more closely, craving any subtle sign of what's going on inside you. And that is when you become unforgettable. Here's the truth. You don't need to speak to prove who you are. Let your silence speak for you. Let your energy, your boundaries, your calm presence be your loudest message. When you can sit in silence with peace, while the world around you races to be heard, you don't chase her emotions. She chases your stability. And in that space, that calm space you command, that's where your real power lies. Because a man who can be silent with intention, a man who knows when to hold back, when to let tension build, he's the man who commands the room and the mind of the woman before him. So practice the art of purposeful silence. Speak less, mean more. Let your calmness do the talking, and soon, you won't have to ask for her attention. It will already be yours. 3. Set boundaries with quiet strength. A man without boundaries is a man who cannot be respected. It's that simple. And here's the truth. Most women won't tell you to your face when you've lost their respect, but you'll feel it. You'll see it in her tone, in her growing distance, in her silence, because deep down, she's not wired to crave the man who gives her everything. She's wired to respect the man who guards himself. Boundaries aren't walls. They aren't about pushing people away or being cold. Boundaries are standards. They are quiet declarations of self-worth. They say, I know who I am. I know what I allow. And I'm not afraid to walk away from anything that violates that. When a woman meets a man who holds strong boundaries, she feels something powerful, security, and paradoxically a bit of fear, not toxic fear, but the emotional tension that comes from knowing this man doesn't need her, that he's not afraid to say no, that he will not tolerate manipulation, disrespect, or chaos, and that makes her take him seriously. Let's be honest, most men fold the moment emotions run high. They drop their standards to keep the peace. They allow her to push limits because they're terrified of losing her. But here's the truth. You cannot inspire genuine love by abandoning yourself. When she crosses a line and you stay silent, you're not being kind. You're being forgettable. So let your boundaries be felt. If she cancels plans last minute, don't pretend it's fine. If she's disrespectful during a conversation, step away, not to punish her, but to protect your peace. Because the moment she senses that you're not like the others, that you have a quiet code you live by, one that isn't bent by emotion, she'll start questioning everything. Did I push him too far? Did he lose him? Why isn't he reacting like the others? And just like that, the emotional weight shifts. You no longer have to demand respect. You command it through presence and consistency. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to over-explain to be understood. You simply need to hold your line. And when your boundaries are clear, calm, and consistent, respect will flow naturally. But remember, boundaries are not about control. They're about self-respect. You set them not to manipulate others, but to protect your own values and well-being. And when you do, you become a man she looks up to, a man whose presence she respects, a man whose standards she honors, and a man whose absence she fears. Because deep down, every woman craves the strength of a man who will not betray himself to please her. So, stand firm. Speak less, mean more. Let your calm strength speak louder than words. And you'll find you never have to chase respect. It will already be yours. 4. Balance powerful presence with graceful withdrawal. There's a reason why a man who can be fully present but isn't always available lingers in a woman's mind long after he's gone. It's not because he plays games. It's because he made her feel something real and then gave her space to miss it. Presence is a gift. It's when you're with her and your eyes are locked in. Your phone is down. Your attention is undivided. She laughs, and you notice. She speaks, and you truly listen. You become a mirror of emotional connection. You're not just physically there, you're fully there. And because that level of presence is rare, it leaves a mark. But here's where most men get it wrong. They think that more presence equals more desire. So they overstay, they hover, they call, they text, they show up constantly. And in doing so, they dilute their magic. You see, true impact is found in contrast. A powerful presence must be followed by a graceful withdrawal, not ghosting, not disappearing to make her chase, but stepping away with peace. You return to your mission. You focus on your craft. You spend time alone. You allow her to sit with the emotional weight of your absence. And in that space, she reflects. She begins to wonder, where is he? What is he doing? Why do I feel his absence more than I ever felt someone else's presence? That's when the real emotional tension begins. Not because you manipulated her, but because you left a genuine impression. A man who can show up fully and then step back calmly is a man who is centered. He doesn't cling. He doesn't overcompensate. He knows that mystery isn't about hiding. It's about the rhythm of emotional connection, followed by confident detachment. So, be intentional when you're present, and be just as intentional when you step away. Your silence should never feel like punishment. It should feel like purpose. And the more she senses that your world moves forward, with or without her, the more she will want to be part of it. Because here's the truth. A man who can walk away peacefully is the one who never really leaves her mind. He understands that presence and absence are not opposites. They are partners. They work together to build depth and desire. If you're always present, you become predictable. If you disappear too much, you become disconnected. But when you balance the two, you create an experience that stays with her. She will remember the man who showed up fully, who made her feel seen, and who stepped away with quiet strength. So master the art of presence and master the art of withdrawal, not for control, but for balance, because in that balance, you become the man who captivates without trying and who remains unforgettable. 5. Let her discover your depth slowly. There is something magnetic about a man who carries depth but doesn't feel the need to flaunt it. A man who feels deeply, thinks profoundly, lives intentionally, but never begs to be seen. That man doesn't just attract a woman, he lingers in her mind. In today's world, most men try to win attention by oversharing. They mistake vulnerability for dumping. They spill their entire life story in the first week, thinking it will build connection. But here's the truth. Mystery isn't about hiding who you are. It's about letting someone earn access to your depth, slowly, authentically, on your terms. Real depth is like a beautiful cave, dark, yet sacred. You don't drag someone in, you invite them, bit by bit, moment by moment. And the more she feels like she's discovering something new in you, the more invested she becomes in the journey. You want her to worry. Let her realize she still doesn't fully know you. Be honest, but not needy. Let her see glimpses of your passions, your fears, your dreams, but only when it feels right. Not because you're trying to create connection. Trust this. The less you force it, the deeper it will resonate. Women do not crave the man who tells them everything. They crave the man who leaves them wondering, what else is in there? What is he not saying? Why do I feel like I've only scratched the surface? This is where true desire lives, in the space between what she knows and what she yearns to uncover. And here's the paradox. When you stop trying to impress, you become impressive. When you stop pushing for closeness, she starts pulling for more. It's not about withholding, it's about pacing. It's about allowing the connection to unfold naturally, instead of forcing it. So, let her discover your depth over time. Give her a reason to lean in, a reason to think about you at night. Replaying conversations, dissecting meanings, because when a woman realizes that you're not trying to be fully known, that's when she starts wanting to know everything. And that, my brother, is when she begins to worry. Not because she's insecure, but because she has recognized you are not like any man she's ever met before. You stand apart, rooted in your self-worth. You live with intention and with restraint. You move at your own pace, on your own terms, and in that space, you become the man who captivates her without ever trying to be. 6. Detach with dignity and emotional non-reaction. If there is one trait that will set you apart from nearly every other man she's known, it is your ability to detach with dignity. Most men crumble when emotions surge. One cold message, and they spiral. One delayed reply, and they lose sleep. One subtle shift in her energy, and they scramble to win her back. But you are going to be different. You will feel, but not react. Emotional non-reaction is not numbness. It is maturity. It is knowing that you do not have to prove your worth. Every time doubt creeps in, it is the strength to walk away without a scene, to pause when she tests you, to let silence speak. Instead of rushing to fix what does not need fixing, a woman begins to worry when her pull no longer shakes you, when she throws confusion your way and you remain calm, when she gives you less and you do not chase more, when she expects you to argue, plead, or break, and instead you step back with quiet clarity. That is when her mind starts racing. Why isn't he reacting? Did I push him too far? Did he lose him? You create worry, not through aggression, but through calm indifference, not coldness, but centeredness. Detaching with dignity is power. It says, I care, but I will not beg. I feel, but I will not lose myself. I see what is happening, but I know my value, and I will not compete for what should be freely given. That energy is unforgettable, because when you are the man who can step back without argument, who does not spiral, who simply lets go with peace, you become the storm she cannot predict, the story she replays, the man she worries about, because deep down, she knows she may have just lost someone irreplaceable. But remember, emotional detachment is not about pretending you do not care. It is about valuing yourself enough to never sacrifice your dignity. You do not react to gain her approval. You do not react to soothe her insecurities. You do not react to prove your love. You stand firm, rooted in your sense of self. You understand that her affection must be chosen, not chased. So walk in peace. Love fully, but never at the cost of your emotional dignity. When the moment comes to detach, do it not in anger, not in bitterness, but in quiet power, because the man who can walk away without noise is the man whose silence echoes the loudest in her heart. That is real power. It is not about controlling her feelings. It is about mastering your own. It is about being the man who is unshakable. And in that presence of calm strength, you become unforgettable. So here you are, listening, watching, and maybe right now, something deep inside you is waking up. Maybe it's subtle, maybe it's powerful, but you can feel it. You've started to see yourself in this message. Maybe you've been the man who over-texts, the man who overgives, who waits by the phone, hoping she'll notice the effort you've poured in. Maybe you've been the man who reacts too quickly, who explains too much, who silently begs. Through every "Are you okay?" through every late-night check-in, hoping to pull her back. And yet, she didn't worry. She didn't chase. She still pulled away. And let me tell you why. Because she never feared losing you. She always knew you would stay. But now, that version of you is fading, gone, and something new is taking its place. You are becoming the man who understands his values so deeply, so unshakably, that he no longer negotiates them. You are becoming the man who does not need to raise his voice to be heard, who does not react simply to feel relevant, who does not cling when space appears. You are becoming a storm, wrapped in calm, a mystery, wrapped in kindness, a leader of your own emotional world. And when she feels that shift, When she senses that the man who once reached out to her is now rooted fully in himself, that's when she will begin to feel something she never expected. Worry, not because you punished her, not because you played games, but because for the first time, she cannot read you. And that unknown is louder than any words you could ever say. And when she finally feels that tension, when the worry begins to whisper in her heart, she'll realize she should have held on tighter, she should have asked deeper, she should have chosen you when you were still choosing her. But now, you choose yourself. You no longer seek validation. You no longer wait for permission. You no longer chase what must be chosen freely. And when you embody that, your presence will change the room. Your absence will change her. And if this message has struck something inside you, don't stay silent. Drop a comment below, share your story, and share this message with a brother who may be trapped in the very patterns you've just seen exposed. Because this channel is for men who are done chasing, for men ready to step into calm power, to lead with quiet strength, to become unforgettable.